Before we get started, I want to give a special thank you shout out to the patrons in the Mutt tier. They are Wilma, Glad Goku, Dare Denny, Kale Bennett, That Jordo, Ken K of Warheads, Super Hyper Mecha SP Mark II, Sirius the Skeptic, and welcome back Biotin, good to see you here again. And I've bought the entire helium supply, have fun blowing up balloons now. Thank you. Hey, what's up? I'm Channel Pup, the mascot for the level-headed fanboy, and today I'm gonna go see Madame Web, the latest Sony Marvel film. Now, this is quite an interesting one, because I had no plans of actually going to see this in the cinema, because, well, as a broke-ass adult, I have to carefully prioritize what I spend my money on, because I got bills. Was I going to pay any money to see Madame Web? No way, Jose! The trailers didn't really sell me. It's one of Sony's many attempts at making a Spider-Man film without Spider-Man in it, and the track record of, good movies in that universe so far is 1 out of 3. I was in no rush to see it, happy to just watch it on a streaming service later down the line and make it part of a retrospective. But for all you Madame Web fans out there who are itching to hear my thoughts on this movie, well, we have a benefactor. Dare Denny bribed me $80 to go see this movie and review it, so you've got him to thank for this video even existing. And as such, I'm going to uphold my end of the bargain. A fair shot for this film. I'm going to give it all of the benefit of the doubt, a nice baseline level of respect. I'm going into this movie in good faith, opening day. There are going to be spoilers in my review, so if you're itching to find out what happens in the Madame Web movie, but don't want me ruining it, well, you know what to do, go see it for yourself. Now, if you're new around here and you love Spidey, well, you're in a good spot. Stick around, get it, and subscribe. It is hugely appreciated, and if you want to support me further, well, this video, like all of my videos, is made possible through the support of my patrons. To find out how you can become a patron and receive rewards, the Patreon link is in the description below, as well as the Ko-Fi link for one-off pledges. It really helps me out, and I appreciate it hugely. Thank you, and again, a special thank you to Dare Denny for putting up the funding to go and see this movie. I dedicate this video to you, Dare Denny. So I gotta make a little retraction quickly. If you saw my video on what to expect for Spidey in 2024, I said that Madame Web was produced by Avi Arad and Matt Tolmach, citing this as a reason for not really being very interested in it. It turns out that isn't the case. They had no involvement in this one. So that is one reason for me to get excited about Madame Web. The people who aren't producing it. However, it is from the same writers as Morbius, so thumbs up for the nuclear-proof job security at Sony. Also kinda interesting, while Madame Web is a part of Sony's non-Spidey slate, it isn't connected to any universe. So if the Venom films and Morbius are the DCEU in this example, that'd make this film Joker. I did good with that one. And like Joker, Madame Web prides itself on moving away from the cape-shit codes and conventions. It's subversive, real cinema in that matter. So I mean, we could be in for anything with this. There's a chance that maybe it's a step up from the Sony Spidey Universe films, which, to be fair, in my opinion, haven't been all bad. I loved Venom Let There Be Carnage. Did I love it as an adaptation of the source material, though? No. Did it do its characters justice? No, it really didn't. But I love it as a buddy comedy sci-fi movie. So admittedly, yes, even the good one does have an asterisk next to it. The worst of the bunch so far, I'd say, is Morbius, and while the film sucks, get it like a vampire, the people I blame for just how disappointed I was in that movie are you, Internet. I watched Morbius like a year after its release and had been convinced by you, the Internet, that it was some so bad it's good train wreck of a movie, when in actuality it was just boring and unremarkable. So okay, giving Madame Web a fair shot, getting back on topic, the film serves as an origin story for its titular character, Madame Web, and there are a few other characters from Spidey mythology making appearances in this one too. I'll tell you what, one thing Sony are not guilty of is lacking faith in their IPs. I can't think of many studios who would confidently pull the trigger on a movie all about Madame Web. I mean, for Pete's sake, the DCEU under Walter Hamada didn't even have faith in Superman as an IP, which if anything I consider far more egregious than Sony Pictures vomiting out solo movies for every Spider-Man background character. Better to have it and not want it than to want it and not have it, right? And now I hear El Muerto is back in production. Yeah, he's a Spider-Man character. Wouldn't blame me for not knowing, considering a good 90% of Spider-Man fans probably don't know who El Muerto is. But okay, look, you can make anything into a movie and make it work. Enough avoiding the inevitable, I gotta talk about Madame Web now. Right, so Madame Web felt to me like... Okay, picture this. Here's Brenda. She volunteers at the community center as a Girl Scout leader, and she's overheard some of the Girl Scouts saying they wanted to be actors. So Brenda wants to nurture this like any good scout leader would, and so she heads home to her husband John, who works in carpentry, and tells him all about how she wants to produce a movie for the Girl Scouts to star in, and asks him if he, a grown man, can write a screenplay all about these teenage girls, while she goes and makes other preparations such as an Indiegogo campaign. Brenda has her finger on the pulse of new trends, so she aces the Indiegogo. So John does the absolute best he can and comes up with a story revolving around a group of girls battling against a legally distinct Spider-Man clone who is evil. Imagine it's all written in Microsoft Word and the title page has word art on it. All I can say is, Brenda, you pulled it off. The Indiegogo campaign was a success, you did a nicer job with budget management than most, and you all made a movie that is absolutely deserving of the first place prize at your local church's film festival. Give yourselves a pat on the back, you really earned that $20 Amazon gift card and a bucket of pick and mix. That is what Madame Web feels like to me. I don't like to make assumptions about the people involved in making these films, so I won't. But the impression this film gives me is that its quality, or lack thereof, falls down to a lack of talent or just incompetence rather than it feeling cynical or sleazy, which makes Madame Web the best kind of bad movie. I've seen that reviews generally fall into two camps. Some say it's boring, others say it's so bad it's good, and I'd absolutely say I'm in the latter camp. Yeah, Madame Web is a pretty dismal display, but in a bless 'em they really tried kind of way, rather than say Thor Love and Thunder, where it's like, motherfucker, you're taking me for granted. Here's a small list of recent superhero films I'd absolutely rather watch Madame Web than. Okay, so off the top of my head. Black Adam, The Flash, Wonder Woman 1984, Morbius, Thor Love and Thunder, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and that's all I can think of for now. The big endearing quality here is sincerity. It feels like this was written and produced by people who are genuinely trying, but have no idea how to actually do this. And again, not making any actual judgment of anyone involved here, that is just the read that I got from this film. So the film is very much Final Destination meets Terminator with little bits of Spider-Man lore in there. Cassandra Webb is a paramedic and she falls into the river when rescuing a civilian from a car hanging over the edge of a bridge. And it's in this river where she discovers her powers of clairvoyance. But she's under the water for quite a bit and passes out. Sounds like she would have been better off as a clairvoyant. I'm not gonna edit that out. And there's this whole thing of her realizing that she can visualize the future where her paramedic friend Ben Parker is taking her readings. And it kind of goes on for a bit. We've got her at Mary Parker's baby shower, and she's predicting different horrible, awkward moments where she says how her mother died in childbirth. I also just love how they kind of cherry pick what bits of Spidey mythology they are and aren't willing to talk about. Ben Parker says that he's dating someone, and Cassandra Webb is like, who is it? And he's like, we're just kind of serious. When Mary Parker's about to reveal what the baby's name is going to be, a balloon pops. Now, Cassandra isn't the only one having visions of the future. Enter our villain, Ezekiel Sims, a man suffering from premonitions that 3 teenage girls are going to become Spider-Women and kill him. So he gets his assistant access to state-of-the-art surveillance technology so they can be monitored, tracked, and killed using his overly explained poison powers. Seriously, whenever he uses his poison powers or talks about him, he's like, my poison will kill you. And it's like, duh, isn't that the general idea of what poison is supposed to do? But okay. So there's this scene where the stories of Cassandra Webb and the different Spider-Women start to converge in Grand Central Station. We've got Cassandra walking through the station, and there's a shallow depth of field, so all the passers-by are blurred, but you can tell which passers-by are a main character, considering that they are the ones dressed like cartoon characters, while everyone else is dressed normal. Trust me, you'll know what I mean when you see it. Now, none of these 3 girls know each other, yet. But Cassandra foresees their deaths on the subway as she gets acclimatized to her powers, and after a close call with Ezekiel, she steals a taxi and drives them all off to a forest where she just kind of leaves them there for a bit while she kind of tries to suss things out. Now, we're introduced to our 3 future Spider-Women. We've got Anya Corazon, who is the normal, level-headed one, Julia Cornwall, who is the very straight-laced, more goody-two-shoes one, and finally Maddie Franklin, the rebel who likes to skateboard and thinks high fives are lame. That is as far as the characterization for these 3 go. And they're all super mean to each other at first, but we see bonds start to form after they kind of take it in turns to talk about how they don't have parents. So after eating likely gone-off beef jerky, they all decide to head to a diner, and this is set to the most weirdly out-of-place needle drop while they're just walking through the forest. And they get to the diner, where they eat a lot of food, find a Daily Bugle newspaper published literally on the day of their kidnapping, about their kidnapping, and see some boys that they decide to climb up onto the table and dance for to the song Toxic by Britney Spears, until Ezekiel arrives and kills them. But then that's actually a vision of Cassandra, who is driving to the diner after discovering they left the forest, and for some reason she didn't think to just take them there earlier. And then it takes her longer to drive from the forest to the diner than it does for the girls to just walk? Anyway, she rescues the girls, and then they all go to a motel, and can you imagine if Madame Web were actually Sir Webb, and he was just driving these teenage girls around in a stolen taxi, taking them to a motel? Yeah, some awkward optics there. So Cassandra teaches the girls CPR, don't worry, it's the chest compressions one, in a scene that's basically screaming, "This will come up later." And also, according to my medically trained friend, they are not doing CPR correctly, but that's just secondhand knowledge, don't take my word for that. Just imagine someone being like, "Don't worry, I'm CPR trained, I've watched Madame Web." So she then drives the girls back to stay with Uncle Ben while she decides to go off to the Amazon rainforest to uncover the truth behind her powers and why her mother didn't love her. Hang on, what? Yeah, we do get little hints that her mother died by Ezekiel's hand in the Amazon rainforest when they were researching spiders, and that this expedition was incredibly dangerous while pregnant with Cassandra, but like, why now? And how is leaving the girls with Uncle Ben going to keep them safe? Also, I think Cassandra Webb was identified as the kidnapper and taxi thief during the pursuit in the streets of NYC, so how did she get through the TSA to travel? So many questions. Ugh. So, while she's here, she meets a dude who knows her past, whose name eludes me, but he tosses her into a pool of water that will reveal all, where she discovers that while her mother was carrying her to term, she was told that the little baby Cassandra growing inside of her had a deadly disease. Totally incurable. So she flew to the Amazon to find a cure within the miracle spiders, hence why Cassandra has some spider powers. There are also tribes that kind of resemble the other from the Evolve or Die storyline, so that was kind of neat, I guess. So then, after receiving the truth that her mother actually did love her, this mysterious fellow tells Cassandra that when she takes responsibility, she'll receive great powers. Yep, that rumored mangling of the old mantra was indeed in the film, after all. Wow. So Cassandra heads back to NYC to help the girls, but they're not at Ben's. Nobody is home. Because Mary Parker's water just broke, and they're all on their way to the hospital in the same stolen taxi, which has just been kind of parked outside Ben's without a license plate for ages now, and hasn't aroused any suspicion. They took this because the ambulance wouldn't arrive on time, however, when it does arrive, Cassandra steals it. Because Ezekiel is close by. So Cassandra saves Ben and tells him to run, while she takes the girls to a firework warehouse for the final battle against Ezekiel. Could have taken them to a shooting range and armed them with guns or something, but nah, they're gonna light all the fireworks in the warehouse and lure Ezekiel in. And my god, for people who don't have powers yet, these teenage girls are incredibly durable. What a weird thing to say. This final battle is crazy, because aside from Cassandra and Ezekiel, no one here has any powers, and Cassandra's powers sure as hell don't have any capability in combat, but everything here is just so incredibly convenient. The place is ablaze and they're trapped, but then a firework collides with a wall, busting it open, leading them a path. There are fireworks going off everywhere outside, but fortunately there's a round sheet of metal Cassandra can just use as a shield. Whenever it looks like Ezekiel is about to gain the upper hand, he's hit by a conveniently choreographed firework or conveniently placed rubble. Now, if we'd had a scene to suggest that Cassandra used her clairvoyance to kind of plot this all out, and we saw them coordinating the fireworks for the battle, a bit like a future tense version of the crime scene investigations from the Arkham games, this could have been cool. But Ezekiel is crushed by rubble before finally getting crushed to death by the Pepsi sign, and Cassandra drops into the sea. But she's rescued by the girls who all perform CPR on her. See? I told you that would come up later. Cassandra survives, but now she's blinded and paralyzed from the waist down, as she recovers in hospital with her girls by her side, who she refers to as her family, which we all saw coming instantly, right? Mary Parker gives birth to her child, and we get this vision for the future where all the Spider-Women have their suits and they're gathered together with Madam Web in tow, and the credits roll. Because, yep, that's what it's all about. It was a superhero movie all along. More on that later. There are elements of this film that were kind of cool, I'm not gonna lie. It's by no means a new narrative trick, but I did enjoy how the clairvoyance visions kind of keep you guessing as to what's happening and what's a vision of the future. The fight in the diner was kind of cool, and there's this one shot in the film just before the final battle where Ezekiel lands on the side of a glass building, but we see it through the reflection in the window, so it feels like Ezekiel is just going to collide with the camera before it pans to the side as he dives into the city, and that shot legitimately went kind of hard. And I mean, I didn't really notice any instances of glaring CGI, so that's so solid by today's standards. The music score was fine, I guess. And carrying this is the charisma of Dakota Johnson. She was always a fun presence to have on screen, and I like that Cassandra did have some awareness as to just how silly all of this is. But then there's the rest of the movie. Sorry, I meant the negative aspects. Where do I even begin? The dialogue is an absolute write-off from start to finish. It's all incredibly clunky, unnatural, and literal. It feels like the characters are taking turns to spout exposition, and a good chunk of the time none of it lands because the performances are pretty dire too. The script feels like a first draft, and the acting in this movie does absolutely nothing to mitigate that. Okay, Dakota Johnson and Adam Scott as Cassandra and Ben are easily the most well-characterized in the film, and as such they turn in the best performance. Isabella Mercedes and Celeste O'Connor have nothing to work with, but the performances are perfectly inoffensive. Then there's Sydney Sweeney, and I'm sorry, I haven't seen Euphoria or anything else she's in, but she sucks in this movie. Her performance was B-Tech school drama tier stuff. At the same time, it's hard to really blame her. One look at the script and the obvious wig, and she probably decided, screw it, let's just cash the check and be out of here. Which I can respect. But the absolute standout is Tahar Rahim, and not because he's good in this movie, but because he's so laughably terrible in this that he's easily my favorite part. Now, to be completely fair, his character and dialogue that he has to work with, yeah, I don't know what else he was supposed to do with this. Ezekiel Sims in this movie is Ezekiel Sims in name only. His entire character has been reduced to a growly bad guy who wants to poison 3 teenage girls because he thinks they're going to kill him. That is all there is to this character, and Tahar Rahim reads lines like he's being held at gunpoint. There's such a hasty pacing to all of his dialogue, and it's all so literal. Again, I'm not blaming the actors for this. These performances are dog water, but like, what else could you really do with this material? The directing and editing of the film is also just bizarre. The scene of the rescue at the bridge near the start is constantly breaking the 180-degree rule, which is super disorienting. There's this weird sort of hang time between scenes where, like, you can see the perfect opportunity for a cut, but then the characters just kind of awkwardly stand around for 10 more seconds or so. It happens at the barbecue where Ben and Cassandra kind of run out of dialogue, and then the scene just kind of lingers for a bit while they walk around. It happens after Cassandra saves the pigeon from flying into her apartment as well. It happens a lot, and it's so weird. Not to say that the film is paced really badly or anything, but just the hang time between scenes is really weird. Then there's just other stuff, like, what are Cassandra's motivations for protecting the girls? Because she sure as shit doesn't protect anyone else. The film is set in 2003, but there's a dude on the subway playing a PSP, which didn't release until 2005. Sony, that's literally your product. There's a lot of really cliched action movie zooms and a lot of really, really noticeable ADR, like literally some of the worst I've ever seen. Mostly when it comes to any scene with Tahar Rahim. Just, what happened here? But the most egregious part of all of this, for me anyway, is all those action shots of the Spider-Women in their costumes that we saw in the trailers, and some of which in promo images. Heck, there's even a poster of them all suited up. I don't know what constitutes false advertisement by legal definitions, But this was easily the sleaziest part of the film. If you've seen the trailers or the images, you've seen all of that. They wear their suits for 2 minutes at most, and not as part of any kind of scene or action sequence. You just have these blink and you'll miss it splash page shots that are part of visions. One of them is Ezekiel's premonition, the other is the ending, which is basically a trailer for a Spider-Woman team-up flick. The trailers kind of led me to believe that this film would be an origin story that would culminate in the Spider-Women and Madame Web using their powers in the third act or something. Imagine being a kid in the theater and seeing this poster thinking you're getting a cool superhero movie and you get this. I said that for the most part the film feels well-intentioned and sincere, but I cannot ignore the marketing here, and it's not the first time this has happened. We had the Morbius trailers making a point of this being in the MCU, showing the Spider-Man graffiti, and that wasn't in the film. Vulture, who was purely an after-credits cameo, and now we've got this Final Destination meets Terminator flick that's masquerading itself around as a superhero origin story. That's really not okay. If this is legal, it's definitely got to be skirting some kind of line of false advertisement, surely. Worse yet, you could also cut these scenes out of the film, and it would still make complete sense. It feels like there was a mandate or something. Also, in the final scene where they're all assembled and suited up, Cassandra may as well have just said, "I am now the Madame Web from the comics," as her characterization completely changes abruptly for absolutely no reason, from the awkward and witty in way over her head character to the stoic wise character who, bear in mind, had no arc in the film to earn this. Madame Web is everything the internet convinced me Morbius would be. A failure of spectacular proportions. A film where incompetence seeps from every single pore of its own existence, and there is beauty in that. There is a profound beauty in a film so misguided, desperately trying to keep itself together and so drunk on its own energy, and I like it. So, who do I recommend this film to? If you're the kind of shithouser who will attend a screening of The Room, this is probably going to be up your alley. It really has a similar energy to it, as it feels like a film made by someone who hasn't been to Earth before. If you like films like Catwoman or Elektra for reasons ironic or unironic, this will likely be a good choice. If you're going into this, though, thinking the trailers genuinely look kinda decent, hoping for a solid Madame Web movie, yeah, maybe don't. And if you're thinking about taking your kids to see this because, ooh, fun Spidey film, save them the boredom. They are not going to appreciate this. So that, my friends, is Madame Web. I really gotta wonder, though, what is going on at Sony? Like, in the days when they held the rights to Spider-Man movies, like, yes, there were peaks and valleys, sure, but, like, they know how to make a film, right? Like, what is this? So what do you guys think? What do you think of Madame Web? What do you think of my review? Comment below, discuss. And as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to support more like it, be sure to hit subscribe, hit the like button, and in the description below is, of course, the link to my Patreon page, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get your name in the credits of these videos, as well as other rewards. A special shout out goes to the patrons in the $5 or above tier, who are Wilma, Kalex, Richard Rogers, Glad Goku, Dare Denny, SSS06, Kale Bennett, That Jordo, King K of Warheads, Dazzle Fizzle, SP can't come to the phone right now, please leave a message after the beep. Beep! Sirius the Skeptic, Biotin, I've bought the entire helium supply, have fun blowing up balloons now, and Vera Wild. Once again, thank you so much to Dare Denny for bribing me into seeing this film. Turned out to be a good time. And to all of you at home, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Get out of here.